Welcome back to the channel. So, everybody, I've been telling you we're going to go ahead and continue on getting the uncollected title on the backup account here. So it's time to go ahead and get that next level down. Looking to get through quite a bit over the next week and get the videos out. But we're going to start off real strong here. I think we have a tack boost just for the little extra bonus. Never hurts. So let's go ahead and get Iron Man out of the way here. Now, this is another one of those levels where you need to stay aggressive because the longer you go without actually connecting with your opponent, the more damage you'll end up taking. As you can see, the timer that keeps popping up there. But again, guys, I want to remind everybody, and I've been very adamant about this, okay? The five champions I have on my screen right now are not the chase champions anymore by any means. It's not Doom. It's not Nick Fury. It's not Shang-Chi or, you know, any of the Hercules. There's so many others that are the new hotness or the best in the game champions. And I don't want you guys to worry about that. The longer you hold yourself back trying to get the best five, the more likely you are that there's going to be a new best five that you're just going to keep chasing until you never get the content done. It's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be, you may have to use a few potions. You may have to use a few revives. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with not being the best at this game. It's about taking it, first off, take it at your pace, but at the same time, your pace doesn't have to be determined by whether or not you have the best champions. If the champions you have work for you, use them. I had a long debate today with a member of the community over whether or not Loki was even a useful champion, which this is not a debate that I'm unfamiliar with. I ran Loki long before anybody saw high value in him. Wasn't until a lot of people started realizing there's an Ultron fight that a lot of people started getting stuck on, that all of a sudden, when you realize that you could steal that regen and shut it down, that Loki started jumping on a lot of tier lists Seaton started recognizing him, and KT1, and more and more of the big people in the community started recognizing his value at that point, and all of a sudden he became relevant, as I had already been using him for quite some time. partially because he was one of the most useful 5-stars that I had pulled right off the bat. And so when this member of the community started questioning the fact of what, that the synergy that I was talking about with Heimdall and Loki, whether or not, how it was a waste, um, which I see it, for if you got the top champions in the game, yeah, maybe you don't want to take up those spots if you could have Doom, Hercules, Nick Fury, um, Shang-Chi and Warlock on your team or whoever, that's considered the top champion of each level. But if you haven't pulled those or you're still in your first handful of 5-stars or handful of 6-stars and your roster hasn't grown enough and your resources are limited and you're trying to progress in the game, why limit yourself when maybe you decide, oh, hey, I like Hawkeye, which is another champion I think is fairly underrated. He's got great bleed, great power control. Uh, Sometimes you can go with the champions that other people don't rate highly or that other people knock on just because in your hands they're better. We've seen it out there in the community tons of times where somebody will take a champion that everybody else thinks sucks and that's their favorite champion and they clear content with them. I've said this repeatedly to multiple people I've taught how to play this game. Um, Whenever you get a new champion, especially when you get a batch of new champions, like many of us did over November and December, and as may still come a few more here this month, because we still have the Chinese New Year event coming up, which normally, um, you know, there's always something going on that has a good chance of adding you a few new champions that might be considered roster changing. And go, don't even worry about leveling them up too much. Go play the arena. Go do round after round after round in the arena where you have the best chance to use multiples of your champions and see what each of them do. It's not going to be a full representation. It's not. There's too many champions like Corvus, uh, Aegon, the ramp up champions that you need those multiple fights to really see their potential. But even with that being said, uh, you're still going to have a chance to find yourself a group of champions that you're like, I kind of like these ones. And then throw some levels into them. After you throw some levels into them, go play some content with them. Fill them out a little bit further where you're going to be in multiple fights and see if they do suit your play style. After you try them out that way, if you continue to like them, or you get them, you know, level them up a little bit more. If you don't like them, shuffle them out, find a new champion until you find a group of 5 that not only can you work with, but that you enjoy playing. Once you get that group grounded in, then worry about working on content. You got to be aggressive on these. That's the downside of this is if you can't get through some of those blocks, that once that degeneration starts, you take a few hits, um, and it doesn't take much to bring you down. So may look like I'm playing a little rough tonight, which I might be, but at the same time, um, just to let you know, in the middle of the conversation, obviously, um, why we're using a few more resources tonight. But again, that's never a problem. It's not about perfect gameplay. It's about continuing on. Like I said, find the 5 champions that you can play the game with, that you enjoy playing the game with, no matter if it's because you like their animations, you like their playstyle, you like their whatever it is that makes them work for you, and work with it until you get some new champions or until somebody that you have, you get 3 or 4 that you've awakened and revisit them after they're awakened. See what they're like. It might make a difference. You dupe them 4 or 5 times, and you're annoyed because this isn't who I wanted. Go back and try that champion. A lot of what happened with my playing Loki in the very early days was exactly that. Loki was my first awakened 5-star, and then I duped him 3 times almost in a row. He became very valuable at that point. He became one of my highest ranked champions, so I learned to use him. Same thing with Hawkeye. Use the champions you have. Don't always chase the champions that everybody says is the best. There's nothing wrong with wanting that shiny new champion, but don't let it hold you back on getting further. And yes, in these series, I'm going to give you tips and tricks on how to get through some of these. Obviously, let you see my particular gameplay and what have you. Um, went this way partially to get rid of the ability triggers. There's a few other uh, global nodes that are the bloodletting is definitely one to be on the awareness of, unless you've got somebody who is bleed immune, which obviously I do. Adaptive, that one is pain. The enhanced abilities, like I said, taking that one out so they trigger a little less, or taking out the armor one, eh, unless you are running a team that you do not have anybody bleed immune, and then definitely go after the bloodletting node. Um, but again, don't hold yourself back. I know sometimes the numbers look huge, especially when your biggest champion's 7,000-8,000 points. Obviously, that is not the case with the accounts I'm running at this point. Um, but it was the case when I went through and did Uncollected the first time. It will be the case of where I start hitting for Thronebreaker on the main account, which is going to be coming up after we get through Uncollected on this account. We'll be pushing for for Cavalier on this one and Thronebreaker on that one at the exact same time. Um, that being said, uh, when we go for Thronebreaker, the champions are going to be quite a bit bigger than what I'm running in there with. But don't get scared. Um, the worst thing that could happen is that you realize that you're not quite ready and that you need to level your champs up just a little more. So you go out and you get some resources from different events. You spend your glory properly. You get the fives that you're working with leveled up, and then you come back and you try again. Um, or you get 50, 60, 75% of the way through the path, and you lose a few fights. But you go in with plenty of potions and revives, and you do what you got to do. You get through the content. You know, I've said it before on some of the previous videos. If you get all the way through this and you get 90% or better, you're setting at the next to the last boss or next to the last node from the boss, or you're sitting at the boss node and you're out of potions, you're out of revives, you're out of units. Jump out and go do arena. Go do arena until you have enough to be able to buy the potions and revives to get you through it. Primarily revives. Revive up 40% at a time and go in, take out as much of them as you can. Anyone who tells you that the first time they went up against the Grandmaster, they went through and one-shotted it, I want to see proof. And I want to know for a fact that it was the first time. Most of us going up against the Grandmaster, and you will see it when I get there. That is coming up soon. It's not a one and done fight. I will use a ton of potions on that fight, or a ton of revives on that fight. There will be no potion use. It will be revive, do what damage I can do, revive again. If that's how you have to go about it to get through content, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's part of the reason why, right there, whole team is down. I have potions, I have revives. I'm just gonna walk back in here and I'm hitting him again, and I'm gonna do what I gotta do until he's down, and then we will continue on. I could do this in multiple takes. I could go through and play this until I get a perfect run and only show you guys the perfect matches. But why? That's not realistic. Yes, there are plenty of people out there in the community that, even with the champions I have, could walk through this in no time. I'm just going to go ahead and revive everybody. I know people. I've watched gameplay of Seaton, Brian Grant, plenty of others take 3 and 4 star champions and become uncollected. Okay, just because that's possible doesn't mean that that's what you have to do. If you try and do that, most likely you're going to get to a point where you get frustrated and you get very annoyed with this game, and you become very unhappy with the idea of playing this game. As with anything in life, this game included, If you are constantly measuring yourself by the best people in the game or in whatever, you will constantly be unhappy because you're likely not going to be as good as them. You may not have the opportunities that they have. You may not have the resources they have. You may not have a lot of things. But if you focus on your strengths, focus on what you have available, and focus on what you have in front of you to accomplish, you only have yourself to measure against. That's not to say that it's not great to watch what other people are doing and get excited and strive towards becoming as good as they are, strive towards having the champions they have, strive towards all of it. But benchmark yourself against yourself and your account, not my account, not Seaton's account, not Prof. Hoff's account, not KT1 or Karate Mike or anyone else, Katie Candy, Mama Bear. I don't care what YouTuber, what person in your alliance, what person in your household has an account that you wish you had. Work with what you got, and you can continue. You can progress. I guarantee there is no one out there whose only champions are meme tier and that they are unusable whatsoever. You may not have great 6 stars, but I bet you have some pretty decent 5 stars. Same thing goes for you may not have some great 5 stars, but I guarantee you have some pretty good 4 stars. And it's going to depend a lot on where in the content you are, what kind of alliance you're in. Are you in an alliance that's doing war on a regular basis? Are you getting season rewards, even if it's Stone 2? Are you in an alliance where most, if not all, members log on daily? Are you in an alliance that alliance events, the 3-day events, the weekly Sumner advancement, are you guys getting rank rewards? What do if you're not in an alliance where everybody's active, consider either A, finding a new alliance, or B, starting your own. Which 2 opportunities on that. I mentioned before the idea that once we get the channel up to 100 subscribers, I'm going to be taking this account and starting a new alliance. So I'll be doing a guide on how to do that and some of the perils of being an officer. Also, on top of that, that means that there will be an opportunity for people to join the alliance with me. There will also be opportunities for people to become an officer in that alliance. But as well, if you want to know what that's going to be like and what you would have to deal with and what it would take to start an alliance, we'll soon have a series out of that on the channel. So I will tell you that there is definitely a benefit to going solo or going semi-retired at certain points in the game. If you're at a moment where you can obtain the resources well enough on your own that you don't necessarily need to have the benefit of an alliance for a little while, that can be useful. Um, the current alliance that I have running right now, um, it started as a place to store backup accounts um, for people in my main alliance. Then, when I decided that I was going to take some time where I would be very limited on how much I could play the game, I moved my main account over there as well. Put officers in place to take over running the main alliance 100% and let go of the alliance. Of course, I I have learned that particular alliance did not end up dissolving months later without my leadership. I still continue to communicate with several of the members of that alliance. I have a global chat that I am lucky enough to get a few of them to talk in from time to time. Uh, and I hope eventually to maybe get to a point where I can bribe a couple of them to give me a guest shot on the channel and talk about some of the early days of playing the game together. Because I really think that, first off, it would be really awesome for me personally, just for the nostalgia. But I think the community would really enjoy it as well. But there is also a lot of benefit to having a good group of people to play with. No matter if you're pushing for map 7 or 8, or if you're just going to do maps 3 and 4 like we're currently doing. Never be ashamed of where you're at in the game, and understand that sometimes you can go less so that you can accomplish more. Obviously, right here, knocked out another level. We got 6 more left to go to become uncollected, and we will have, I'm guessing about the time this video comes out, we should have this one and at least 2 more levels. I'm looking to try and get 3 more out at the same time, if I can. And then by the end of the following week, I should have the last 3 done. And then, like I said, we'll be going on for the Cavalier push on this account, and the Thronebreaker account, the Thronebreaker on the main account will be started at that time. So I'm guessing that's going to push us into the beginning of February, which will put us just in time for the Valentine's event, which is also another great event to look forward to. There's a lot of the It's Complicated and Romance champions that are fun to play, and so that's a lot of really good opportunities there. Keep that in mind. But I will see everybody back for the next level in the next video. And I appreciate every one of you who have already hit that subscribe button. And for those of you who haven't, I would be so grateful if you would do so. Remember to go ahead and hit that like button and leave comments. Let me know what you guys are looking for, what you want to talk about, what champions do you have? What champions do you use that nobody else uses? Or that you feel like always gets laughed at, but yet somehow you're getting through content with. Peace out.